The divisional round begins on Saturday, 4:35 Eastern is the kickoff on NBC. We will be there in Santa Clara to see the Vikings and the 49ers with an extended pregame show. And with 8 teams left, 4 in the NFC, 4 in the AFC, that's 8 coaches. We're going to do a 4-round draft. And the criteria is this, Peter King. The playoff head coaches we have the most confidence in. You will get the first pick if you get the trivia question correct, and I think that you will. The Panthers gave Matt Rule a 7-year, $62 million contract yesterday. Only 6 players in the NFL have more than $62 million guaranteed in their contracts. Name 2 of them.
Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers.
All right. The others are Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz, and Julio Jones. You get the first pick.
I'll take Andy Reid. I think that the one thing that I like about Andy Reid, especially when it comes to playoff performances, and everybody is going to ding him for not getting to enough Super Bowls, for only getting to 1. The thing I like about him is with an extra week, he always has a varied game plan coming up the following week. I think he'll have a lot in his tank for this first playoff game this weekend.
Yeah, you know, I got a ton of respect for him, and he's a sentimental favorite to get a Super Bowl ring. He's been at it for so long. He's been such a great coach. The Chiefs are such a fun team. They fell off of people's radar screens this season, and they shouldn't have. I think they're very dangerous heading into the divisional round. They're the only holdover from last year in the round of 8, Peter. The other 7 teams from last year have all been booted. The Chiefs are the only constant, and that's a credit to Andy Reid and what he's been able to do with his team. But, you know, there's the clock management issues that creep up, and hopefully he can overcome that. Hopefully he can bust through that, and he'll have an opportunity to manage the clock in a way that get people to say, hey, you know what, he did pretty well in that one. I'm going to go with the one guy that, well, he's not the only one, but one guy who has won a Super Bowl and who has, I think, the best team. It's easy to have confidence in the coach when he's got the best team, and that's John Harbaugh, the Baltimore Ravens. They were 14-2. I love what Harbaugh did with the flexibility, adapting the offense to suit the talents and the skills of his players, specifically Lamar Jackson. And I think that the scales are tipped a bit in their favor. It's going to take a real upset to keep them out of the Super Bowl. And because he's been there, because he knows what it takes, because he's weathered a 20-minute blackout in the Super Bowl, he's ready for anything that may happen. He's been there, he's done it, and I think he's ready to do it again.
Mike, with the 3rd pick in the divisional coach draft, the Peter King select Kyle Shanahan, head coach, San Francisco.
Wow.
And
Gutsy.
I like Shanahan at this point. I like Shanahan right now. And I think there's a chance that 6 beats 1. But that's not a reflection on the coach. It's a reflection in many ways of the inexperience of so many players on his team who haven't played in playoff games before. I trust that a more, a greener coach with a greener team is going to beat a more grizzled coach like Mike Zimmer with a more veteran team that has played in bigger games than the San Francisco 49ers have. And the reason is the 49ers this year remind me of the New York Giants of the mid-'80s. I once asked Bill Parcells in their Super Bowl run the first time, why is the NFC East so good? Why every year do they have a contender for the Super Bowl? If it isn't Chicago or San Francisco, it's going to be somebody from the NFC East. And he goes, because we're battle tested. We play such a tough schedule. And I think the last 8 weeks of this year, the San Francisco 49ers have been in a bunch of playoff games and have acquitted themselves well. And I like Kyle Shanahan's handling of this team. And I think they're going to play very well this weekend.
Yeah, and I agree with you. You've got the game in New Orleans, the game in Baltimore that they lost. They beat the Saints at the end with that great 4th and 2 call from Kyle Shanahan. Both
game
of the
in
Seahawks
Seattle,
games.
2 games against Seattle.
Yeah, and even the Rams games, right? The Saturday night game against the Rams had a playoff feel to it. For the Rams, it was a playoff game because they had to win to stay alive in their quest to get back to the postseason. So I agree, even though only 14 players on the 53-man roster have playoff experience, and obviously everyone on the Vikings do, they just played a playoff game, I think those games that the 49ers have played this year will make a difference and make them more prepared than they would have been. All right, I'm going to go with Pete Carroll. He's the other one who has the Super Bowl ring. I'm a big fan of pelts on the wall, just like Bill Parcells. Pete Carroll has done it. Pete Carroll has Russell Wilson. And I think that the games that the Seahawks have won this year, there's so many close games, right? Pete Carroll doesn't freak out in those moments. His team is a reflection of him. And I think that some of these games they've won, they aren't the better team. When they beat the 49ers, they weren't the better team. You know, if they can beat the Packers this weekend, they may not be the better team, and it's not an easy spot for them. But Pete Carroll's got the Super Bowl win, and he's got another one that was just one bad play call away from happening, so I'll go with Pete Carroll.
You know, I'll surprise you right here, Mike. I'm going to take Mike Vrabel. And the reason I'm going to take Mike Vrabel, I'll tell you a little story. On Saturday night after the game, I had just finished up with Tom Brady. I was leaving the Patriots locker room, and I ran into Mike Vrabel and his family. And Mike Vrabel, when I said to him, I said, hey, Mike, you might have just ended the Tom Brady era in New England. You might have just ended the Patriots dynasty. And he looked at me and he said, we got to get ready for Lamar Jackson. Forget that other stuff. And again, the Mike Vrabel thing is that he has been there before. He's been at the highest level of football. He has caught a touchdown pass from Tom Brady in a championship game. You know, he has played under Bill Belichick for 6 years, 7 years. And to me, I think he has learned this year, you got to make the tough decisions sometimes. You got to yank Marcus Mariota. And Mike, you said it earlier, might have been a week or two too late. I agree with you, but he did it. And they got to a better spot. And right now, the Tennessee Titans are a good team. I don't think they're going to win in Baltimore, but I don't think it's going to be because the coach freezes on the sidelines against this great Ravens team.
You know, it's funny how subjective these drafts are, especially for this kind of thing with confidence, because if you had given me the first 3 picks in a row, bang, 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 I would have gone John Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, and Mike Zimmer, and those end up being my 3 picks, picking second. But it's just, I mean, it's eye of the beholder. I'll take Mike Zimmer, and because I've sensed a change in him, not quite to the extreme of a Tom Coughlin in 2007, but I think Mike Zimmer learned the hard way in 2017 that you can't just rely on what you've done all year long and just go keep doing it. You have to realize that when you get to single elimination football, everything you've put on film all year long, and really the year before that, that all has to be studied. You have to scout yourself. You have to be thinking about things you can do, what you can change, different curveballs you can throw that will leave the other team maybe unprepared for what's to come. For example, Mike Zimmer decided in passing situations against the Saints to take Everson Griffin and Danielle Hunter and move them inside. Right? Little things like that. And I got the impression listening to his press conference after the game on Sunday, he's got more stuff too, and he stopped himself from saying, I'm going to have more stuff for Kyle Shanahan. But I think Zimmer, learning from guys like Bill Parcells, being in big games like this, he was part of Super Bowl winning staffs in the past, and you know, he doesn't have many more cracks at this. And he may see that this is his best chance with an aging defense and a team that really doesn't feel like a young, up-and-coming team. This is a team where the window is open, and it's going to close pretty quickly. This may be it, and I've got faith that he's tripped on something. He's kind of in the coaching zone. You know how players get in the zone? I feel like he's in the coaching zone, and I got faith that he's going to come up with something that's going to at least keep Saturday's game competitive. I'm not going to go crazy and predict the Vikings are going to win it, but I think he's at least going to keep it competitive.
I think what's so interesting about football as a sport is that, you know, I walked out of there after watching that game and I said, man, the Minnesota defense is voracious. They're a bunch of killers. What would have happened? What would have been your impression coming out of that game? You would have thought that the Vikings defense played well, but what would have happened if Cousins doesn't complete the pass to Adam Thielen, and then the touchdown pass, the jump ball, to Rudolph, you would have been tempted to say the same old Vikings, even though that wouldn't have been right, because if the Vikings go down and kick a Will Lutz field goal, they're advancing and the Vikings are not. And so the quarterback is so ridiculously important. That's why my next pick and my last pick is going to be Matt LaFleur. I really, really like the fact that Aaron Rodgers is being semi-dogged going into his playoff game. Hey, you're 13-3, but hey, Aaron Rodgers, you played better when they ran Mike McCarthy out of town last year than you did this year when you went 13-3. So I think Matt LaFleur has that advantage to work with this weekend. He knows he has a quarterback who is playing with another chip on his shoulder, and I think that's just going to increase, the advantage that Matt LaFleur has Sunday evening in Green Bay.
Well, I guess that leaves Billy O as the last kid picked in the playground. Sorry, Billy, but hey, you're still playing, right? You're still playing. You have a chance to advance. The Texans beat the Chiefs during the regular season. But, I got a lot of respect for Bill O'Brien. It's just somebody's got to be number 8. It's a bunch of great coaches who are still coaching for a reason. And Bill O'Brien is good enough of a coach to go into Arrowhead and win because he did it during the regular season. Chiefs are a lot different now than they were then. Chiefs are going to be rested and ready. And as you said, Peter, when Andy Reid has extra time, he's very dangerous. But I'm trying to throw a bouquet. I feel bad. Maybe we should have cut it off at 3 rounds so somebody didn't have to be the last.
You know
of 8.
what, Mike? Mike, what you can say is that Bill O'Brien, these two teams were at full strength. Patrick Mahomes hadn't been hurt yet. He got hurt the following week. They went in and at times they dominated. They at times manhandled the Kansas City Chiefs. So, hey, look, the difference now is that the Steve Spagnuolo defense has been absorbed and they're playing it well. And the last 6 games giving up 11 points a game. Kansas City is really a different team than the last time.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.